This is an oral history interview with James Gayle Smith for the Boone County Project. The interview is being conducted by Christine Godfrey on July 6, 2005 at the Smith home in Burlington, Kentucky. Your name, please?
Okay, my name is James Gayle Smith, JamesGaylesmith.
And when and where were you born, Vincent?
I was born in Burlington, August the 29th, 1924. I went to the draft board, or the clerk who happened to be Courtney Kelly, and asked, I said, if I waive my deferment, will I go next month? They had started taking men with children, and then I said I did not feel comfortable staying here while, fifth floor was one, had a child then, and was being taken. And so I went to the draft board and asked to waive my deferment, and I went through the draft, but I had waived the deferment to do it. And then I went through basic training in Eastfield, Mississippi, which is down by Biloxi. Then I went to radio school in Sioux Falls, South Dakota in the winter. Then I went to gunnery school in Yuma, Arizona in the summer. And then we had, with various stops for processing and so forth, we went to operational training, that is, as a crew. A crew was assembled, and that was out in Boise, Idaho. Gallen Air Force Base in Boise, Idaho. Then we came and went we were sent to England as a crew, and were got there in January when the war ended in June, I believe. So we only had, I don't know what it was, 6, 8, 9, I forget now, I have it listed somewhere, combat missions. But they were training our pilot to be a lead pilot, so we bombed sea markers in the North Sea and dropped sand bombs at sea markers in the North Sea and did a lot of flying over there while we were over in England. And of course, the bombing missions were long haul. They'd get us out early in the morning, and we had, of course, no pressurized cabins at that time. We had heated seats, and we had oxygen masks, and we had parachute harness and microphone cords. So moving from one place to another on the plane was a major operation. And when we came back after the war was over, we brought a plane back. I went over on the Queen Mary. We went over to England on the Queen. They took us over on the Queen Mary 1. And then when we came back, we flew by Iceland and Greenland and back into the States. Then after that, I helped carry planes, probably seen these places where they had them lined up row on row to be junked to somebody to be salvaged, we'll say, instead of junked. And they would take the crew, and me being a radio operator, we were considered essential. There had to be a radio operator, engineer, and a pilot and co-pilot. It wasn't the full crew. And then several crews would take planes, and then a transport plane would take us back. So I did that a while till I got appendicitis. Then spent 3 weeks flat on my back down in Georgia. And, but then that's about the extent of that, I think. That, I got out of there just in time to go back with the last group, going back to out in, I guess we were in, Washington, I'm not sure, I believe, no, yeah, we were out in McCord Field near Tacoma and probably the Mount Rainier. There is where our home base was at that time. Well, I worked for just 4 years as clerk, the chief clerk at the ASC office, the agricultural office. I don't know what it's ASC, but I believe it's gone by different initials at different times. But anyway, that's what it was. And I worked there for, I think, 4 years. And then I began as mail carrier. And then from that, I came into the office as clerk after. But the dates I would have to look up, I don't know. But I spent a longer time on the routes. The first route I ran there was no post office at Hebron except the little one in the store. So I carried all mail around Hebron, clear on over to the river there, and then down to the Idlewild, and around back in and down Eastern Lane and all the way. If I tried to do that today, it'd probably take 3 days to make one run. And then for a little while, after Leroy McGeely became postmaster, I took the route he had that went down in East Bend, down to Babbage and Waterloo and Bellevue and so forth. Everything. For sometimes I got a new car and was driving, maybe 2 years or something, and sometimes I got an old one and tried it. So I had lots of cars. The only brand new one the first brand new one that I had ever owned in my life, I bought a Plymouth, got it on Saturday, started out on the mail route Monday morning, and pulled off out before I got to Limaberg, and the school bus coming behind me slid into the back end of it. The only new car I ever had, and I got hit on the first day before I got to Limaberg. It didn't do serious damage, but of course, then we had neither fully automatic transmissions or front wheel drive, and I had a lot of experiences with change. Some of these side roads were shaded and hills, and after the main roads were all open, you still sometimes have to put on chains to get up some of the hills. Yeah, most of them were either mud or gravel. Well, most of the side roads were gravel, yes. And I remember one year, the Highway 20 coming up from, no, not 20, 18. I may have my numbers mixed. Anyway, coming up the hill from Idlewild, I had to put things on an April one here to get up there. Now, had I waited 2 hours, it wouldn't probably melt at all. But I didn't do that. So that's that's pretty much the story there. I now worked in the office as clerk. Was the only full-time clerk in the office, and usually opened up of a morning. I lived right over there in Fife then.
You believe the two last changes in Boone County. All this some of the
Oh yes, the post office I started in is the building, the old bank buildings. They have moved on to the courthouse property up here now. That was then the post office, and it had originally been a bank and so forth, and then it was service station, the office for service station and so forth. But we moved into that, and then we moved in to the one down on the corner. That's also gone now, but where they had a hardware store for a while later on, that building that was leased. They leased that, and I haven't never worked in the present post office.
Tell me about the children.
Well, we have 5 sons. When the night the 5th one arrived, out of the hospital waiting room, the nurse came in and said, "Are you ready for your girl?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, that's all we're having tonight is girls." And I said, "You don't know what you're up against. All we've had in our family for generations has been boys." And sure enough, secretary came in and told me they had the first boy, which made it handy for hand-me-down clothes, but made some of the boys have terrible tales of woe, how they never got anything new.
Tell me about your church.
Well, I went to church from the time I started the time I could walk, the time they could carry me, I guess. My mother was a Sunday school teacher for a long time here in Burlington Baptist Church. My dad was a deacon for a period really later in his life. And he was not, my dad was in his 40s when I was born. So I did not remember my dad as a young man, although he was more active and so forth. When I said one time, I've always heard this, that when you're little, your parents take care of you. And then when they get old, you take care of them. I said, my dad is 84 and he's still doing more for me than I do for him. Now, when does it change? But now in the church, we were always regular. Just before my time, the sanctuary, it had been built without a basement. They put screw jacks all around the building, and on the command, they turned a quarter turn, a half turn, or something. They raised that building up, doubled up our hands, teams of horses, and the wheelbar type scrapers went under there and dug the basement under that was under that church. Now, my first recollection of Sunday school is we were down in that basement. They had wires run with false curtains hung on them. And of course, we were right next to the front of the others were on one side, compared to the church was modified several times. In my time, the pulpit was moved from one side to an end, and then the Sunday school rooms were built on. I remember when I was a young fellow going to church there, thinking how, of course, deacons then were lifetime. So most of our deacons were old men at that time. My dad and Mr. Tom Hensley, who was Mary Jean Poston's father, and we had other children besides her, and Robert Floor, yes, Bob, and Mr. Cy Cowan, who was Bob Floor's grandfather, and I guess Lucian Floor, another of his grandfathers, I believe may have been a deacon sometime. Mr. John Ryle, the two McMullins, Les McMullen, who was Betty Kirtley's father, and Asa, who was Asa. He was always Asa, but actually his name was Asa, with her uncle. They were deacons. And like that, and of course, till they got incapable of doing, they remained a deacon. Now, Virgil Pike became a deacon before he was still a young man, I think, but majority of them were these older men. Mr. John Ryle was the one that I always had such respect for. I always said, well, I knew that it's a God because I came to church and listened to Mr. John Ryle talk with him. He would pray just like I'm talking to you. It just as should be, and that made a lifetime impression on me.
What did you do growing up for fun?
Well, out on the farm, we had a big barn lot, and about every Saturday and Sunday afternoon there was a baseball game there. When I was real little, my grandmother and neighbor lady up the way, we took a buggy and went down to what's now what we call Eastern Maine. Mr. Ed Easton lived down the bottom there, and we'd go the horse and buggy down there and went out to the Wolfer Creek there and feed. Sometimes we took a lunch and stayed, and there's a little creek over on the back of the place. Sometimes we did that. As a family, we played rook a lot. We did some in our home, and when we had a family gathering, the men played, and me as a kid, I filled in when somebody else wasn't there. And in hunting, I was back in that era. My dad and uncle were hunters and trappers, and I did a little working with the traps back like when I was in high school. But the hunting, when I was there on the farm, I carried a rifle most of the time. And when they brought the team of horses around the road, I went up to Holland, looked for a groundhog or squirrel or something. And so I did a lot of that, that type thing.